David Allan Coe has died at the age of 86. With his braided beard, Confederate flag-draped guitars, and unrepentant attitude, he cultivated one of the most intimidating presences in country music history. Even if his name doesn't immediately ring a bell, his work is embedded in the American cultural landscape. Walk into a dive bar, and there's a good chance a jukebox is loaded with his defining anthem, "You Never Even Called Me by My Name," or the working-class rallying cry he wrote for Johnny Paycheck, "Take this job and shove it." The outlaw country movement of the 1970s staked its reputation on raw realism. Artists pushed back against the polished Nashville sound, demanding that the grit in their songs match the grit in their actual lives. Yet the man who arguably embodied that outlaw image most aggressively was hiding a massive contradiction. Shelby Singleton, the Nashville producer who discovered him, admitted in 1976 that 90% of what he tells you is probably bullshit. Coe actively engineered his own mythology. Separating the genuine outlaw from the tall tales reveals how a man with a rap sheet built an empire entirely out of his own legend. The foundation of his persona was grounded in actual criminal history. Born in Akron, Ohio, Coe spent a significant portion of his early life rotating through reformatories and state prisons, serving time for charges ranging from grand theft auto to possessing burglary tools. A standard rap sheet wasn't enough to secure his legacy, so he began exaggerating his violent past to command fear and respect. He frequently told journalists that during a 1963 prison stint, he killed a fellow inmate in the showers using a mop bucket, a claim that investigators routinely found highly dubious. When he arrived in Nashville in 1967, he relied on bizarre stunts to break through the industry noise. He drove around Music Row in a hearse and conducted business wearing a Lone Ranger mask. He even targeted the tourists milling outside the Ryman Auditorium. According to industry lore, he would intentionally work himself into a heavy sweat, stand near the stage doors, and sign autographs so fans would assume he had just finished a headlining set inside. These choices were highly calculated. For an unknown ex-convict trying to penetrate a deeply established industry, theatrical marketing was the most effective way to force Nashville to pay attention. Once he had their attention, he secured legitimate power by supplying massive hits to established stars. Writing a #1 track for Tanya Tucker in 1973 and subsequently penning Johnny Paycheck's signature hit proved he was a formidable songwriter. With his industry credibility established, he started using his solo albums to firmly write himself into country music history. He possessed a unique knack for self-referential lyrics, ensuring his name was constantly spoken on the radio. Listen to tracks like The Ride or Wayland, Wayland and Me, and you'll catch a recurring pattern. He artificially inserted himself into the pantheon of country music by continually dropping his own name right alongside undisputed legends like Hank Williams, Waylon Jennings, and Willie Nelson. While he was expertly navigating the mainstream, he simultaneously chased extreme provocation. In the late 70s and early 80s, he independently released 2 highly explicit underground albums through mail order. Coe defended these explicit records as parodies inspired by Shel Silverstein's comedic work. However, the heavy use of deeply offensive, racist, and misogynistic language alienated vast segments of the public and left a permanent stain on his reputation. His catalog ultimately functioned as the perfect architectural tool for his myth. By balancing undeniable songwriting talent with shocking underground releases, he ensured he was simultaneously too controversial for the establishment to fully embrace, yet too influential to ever erase. He sustained this balancing act well into his later years. He became a massive draw on the motorcycle rally circuit, and his uncompromising attitude earned him unlikely collaborations with heavy metal icons like Pantera and even rap rock stars like Kid Rock. But his final run-in with the law lacked the violent, cinematic flair of his early claims. In 2015, he pleaded guilty to impeding tax laws, receiving probation for the remarkably mundane crime of evading nearly $1 million owed to the IRS. The truth about his motivations actually surfaced decades earlier, during an interview inside the Marion Correctional Institution for a 1975 documentary. He admitted that he never felt he belonged in a cell. His ultimate goal, he confessed, was the satisfaction of walking down the street and having everyone know exactly who David Allan Coe was. In the theater of American music, the line between living an outlaw life and performing one rarely matters if the audience is willing to buy the ticket. David Allan Coe engineered a persona so loud and confrontational that it outgrew the truth, allowing him to pass away exactly as he had designed, truly a legend of his own making.